Thank you for the introduction. I got newly promoted to a new role. That's nice. I'm sorry that this is the last presentation before you have lunch, and most of you are foreigners, so lunch is going to be very late. I think for some of you, it's going to be almost dinner time. So I'm trying to make that a bit, fast. I think half an hour, 40 minutes, something like this, okay? Then it's supposed to be open for questions. I don't know how many questions will you have, before lunch again. What I'm going to explain to you today, or what I'm going to try to introduce to you today, and if you want, you can take notes, and after that, anyways, we're going to send you the documentation, so you don't need to if you don't want, okay? I'm going to be also very concentrated about where I can move. They had told me 20 times exactly from where to where I can move, because the first time I was here 2 years ago, it didn't work that well. So this time, let's hope that I move in the right places. What I'm going to explain to you today is a little bit the sector, the FMCG industry, how it's performing in Europe, and then I'm going to talk concretely about Spain, okay? Probably it's easier if we do the questions at the end, but I don't care. If you want to interrupt me, this is a small group, so it's okay, whatever you would prefer. So what is happening in Europe? Although, actually, this is funny, after what happened last week, but okay, no comments about that. I was even thinking about changing some of the titles of the presentations when I thought, okay, let's imagine this is like a week ago, okay? Because I don't know how to comment on what's going to come, okay? And my company actually operates in the UK also, so we're all a bit, let's say, curious to see what's going to happen. Basically, what we could see, and you will see most of the data is because we try to compare countries, and we all operate slightly in different kind of, let's say, schedules. Most of the things are close of last year. Some of the things are of this year, but in order to have, proper data, most of the things are close of 2015, okay? What we could see, actually, again, it's now funny to talk about that, this week, but is that the economy in Europe, basically we're showing signs of recovery. Signs of recovery that's actually also reflected in the FMCG industry, although in a more modest way. And we will see that country by country. But basically here you have information that is general information that you all know. And actually I assume you are all from... Is there somebody from all of these countries here? I guess yes, no? No? No Greece. Well, Greece. Well, you are from the UK or not? You are. I'm not going to make any joke. Don't worry. So apart from Greece, that we all know that is not recovering yet, the rest of the countries, when you look at macroeconomic data, you obviously see that there are signs of recovery. I mean, it's clear that although, the GDP and unemployment are recovering, and again, still, the information is very, very different, the reality is very different from country to country, we could see positive signs. The only two countries where we last year did not see yet that this impact was reflecting in the FMCG industry, or CPG, where you have here, let's see if that works, yes. That is FMCG, is the same, the same name, is the UK and Greece, actually. Usually when we see recovery, we see the recovery of the economy, and, it depends on the market, but it takes 6 months, 1 year, to impact FMCG. We are quite cautious about what we spend. So probably you have the money, you have, back your job, and it takes a little while that you go back to your shopping habits, okay? So there was a recovery year again, and in terms of industry, in terms of FMCG, we could see that it was recovering in two areas, because, the message is very different. Are you recovering because you're selling more again, what we call volume? As you can see here in Europe as a whole last year, again, they were sold more kilos, liters, or units, 0.7%. It's not a lot, but it was, it was green and not red, okay? But what is interesting is to see it in terms of value. As you can see here, we purchases 1% more in terms of euros, pounds, or whatever you want to call it, okay? Why? Because of different things, okay? Because we were buying again more national brands than private labels. This is one of the reasons, and usually they are more expensive. Because in some countries, prices increase again, and because of the different shopping habits in the different type of stores. During the recession, the stores that actually increased more sales were discounters, okay? So discounters, again, have an assortment that is based on private label and is based in low price. So when things slightly change, it's like a domino effect, okay? One thing piles up on top of the other. And again, red are the same two ones, UK and Greece. And as you can see, in both countries, obviously much more stronger in Greece. In Greece, they have a bigger issue, and this is obvious. So people are buying less in terms of quantity, so less food, less of everything, and in terms of value. Funny enough, and we will see that after that, the prices in Greece are one of the highest in Europe still. There are things that don't make a lot of sense. I'm sure that if I ask here, which is the country that is not recovering, most of you would have said Greece, because that's kind of, I wouldn't say kind of obvious. But when we talk about prices, it's actually quite awkward. And in Great Britain, again, sales and volume are going down. And they are struggling quite a lot still, and it has to do a lot with the distributors, with the discounters. Discounters are in this country increasing, and they're kind of changing a little bit, the scenario. Because when a discounter enters or opens more stores in a country, obviously because of their assortment policy, private label and prices, basically the prices and the size of the pie decreases, okay? And that is happening in the UK. As you can see in other markets, for example, in Spain, volume increases a little bit, but value more. And again, this is a combination of what they buy and at what prices they buy the products, okay? Because some of the manufacturers increased prices a little bit again, because they thought it was already the right moment. Raw materials prices have increased already a while ago, and they have not put that raw price increase into the products, and they finally little by little are doing that. And again, private label is decreasing. So again, the combination of all these things is making that scenario to change. In France, a similar picture, that in Spain, for example, in Germany, and in the Netherlands. What is supporting the recovery? Most people think that because markets are recovering again, one of the reasons could be that finally in the stores, products are more in promotion. And actually that's not the reality. The situation, as you can see, is very different from country to country, and these have hardly changed. The UK has half of the products always in promotion in the stores. I don't know if you have ever, gone shopping in the UK, but the aisles are full of things. These 2-by-1. It's normal, okay? And this has hardly changed. Again, most of the products, or half of the products, are always in promotion. Another country with a lot of those promotions is in Italy. Slightly different story. In Italy, actually there are more products in promotion because it's a country with more national brands than private label. And as national brands usually promote more, that reflects in the number. It's one of the countries with less private label, where actually because of the type of the retailers and because of how the people buy, it's also a combination of shopper behavior, there are always more promotions. And then the rest, as you can see, are around 20%, but have decreased. So the numbers are pretty much the same, and it's like minus 0.3, minus 0.5. So the market is not recovering because there are more promotions there. And the market is not recovering neither because of assortment. This is another question that people have, Is this maybe recovering because there are more products on the shelves, there are lots of products innovation, there are different things in the store that were not there before, and maybe that's why people are buying more things? Actually not. What has happened in the last years is because of the recession, in the same aisles, the same square meters, you have less products than before. So the products have more facings, but you have less products. And that's what you can see here. You can see here in red, in blue, and in this kind of gray, the evolution of the assortment. So, for example, if we look at Greece, from 2012 to 13, the assortment shrink 2.4%. 2014 versus 13 increase, and then it decreases again, okay? So in many countries, this is not the reason. And then private label, which is actually interesting, you most probably, due to the nature of this convention, actually private label is decreasing in Europe as a whole. As a whole, the private label market share in value, in euros, is 38%, with obviously big difference across the markets. And what you can see here is the value by country and the difference versus prior year. So again, as always, the country that has more private label and had in the past and still has today is the UK, and is still increasing. As you can see, it's more than half of the market, almost 52%, and increased 0.4 points last year. Again, this is due to the fact that the kind of stores that are successful and are opening stores and new formats are discounters with a bias very clear to this kind of assortment. And obviously to the fact that people are going to shop in these stores, that they are successful, okay? So the UK is a very difficult market for manufacturers. You can see the promotions, you can see private label is challenging, no? As the Americans say. Spain comes very, very close. But in Spain, the movement has been slightly different. Actually, last year was the first year that private label shrink in Spain, okay? Not a lot. We are talking about less than half point. But it's the first time. It's the first time in many, many years. I don't know if it's a decade, but in many, many years, okay? We could see last year some signs of recoveries, and basically the reason why that happened last year is because the prices of national brands, so not private label products, have decreased. So basically, when a Spanish shopper goes into the stores, I'm simplifying the facts, but in general, prefers a national product than a private label product, in general. So at the moment that the prices of national brands drop, is more tempted and it's easier that goes and purchases that product. So that's, again, it's oversimplifying what happened last year. Netherlands coming very close and doing exactly the same movement. And you can see it's happening the same pretty much in all the markets, okay? That they have different kind of market shares. Netherlands is quite similar. Germany is quite similar. Very often people think that Germany is the market with most private label in Europe. Actually, Switzerland is not included here, but Switzerland has actually even a higher one, okay, because of Migros. But from the markets that we cover in this study, this is the kind of ranking. France, 34%, and again, Italy, the US, and Australia. It's funny to see how different the markets are, although we are relatively close. Again, I think I'm just saying obvious things because you guys are experts about that, but Italy still has a very different type of stores that we have in other markets. It's a market not concentrated. It's a market not concentrated like it is in Spain or is in France. In France, it's concentrated in hypermarkets. In the UK, also big stores, national stores. Spain is concentrated basically because Mercadona has the way that it has, but in Italy, not. In Italy, it's spread all over the country with many different retailers, basically operated in different regions. And that makes the situation very different, okay? And obviously, the focus for them is not private label. Although when you talk to them about it, everybody talks about private label and, they scream and it's increasing and it's very high, but obviously compared to the others, it's I wouldn't say irrelevant, but very different. And the US and Australia. Australia actually now is also changing quite a lot. Australia is a country dominated by two retailers, really. And they are starting, again, I'm exaggerating, to discover private labels. So retailers are making a lot of pressure, and they did not make a lot of pressure, and they did not innovate. They didn't put assortment in the stores, and they're starting to do it now. So we assume we're going to see a constant growth there, because it's a market very concentrated, actually. As I did mention a minute ago, national brands last year did more, of course, in promotions than private label, which is usually the case, but more than in general. And that actually helped to support their growth, okay? So what you can see is here, let's look at the UK. The UK is here in the middle, okay? As you remember, the UK had something like, 50% of the sales in promotion. But this 50% of sales in promotion is really very uneven. Because if you can see this dark blue, this is national brands. And the pale blue, this is private label. So basically, almost 65% of branded goods, national products, are on promotion. Okay, so again, it's really a huge pressure. Okay, and 30%, half of it, which is still quite high, of private label. The picture is quite similar in the countries, except the US and Australia, but I would consider them atypical still because of still the small share of private label. Okay, but usually the ratio is approximately 50%. I mean, half of the promotions in private label versus what we have in national brands. What is common across the markets, and you can see here with very few exceptions, they are decreasing a little bit, as I did mention before. One of the things that are more important, and that I'm sure that you measure and that we measure, is the price. The price difference between one type of products and the others. And obviously the price difference should be observed at category level comparing products, but we would spend here like 2 hours just comparing things. But if we do an index, which probably should be good enough to give you an indication here, okay, it's back again. Well, now I did something wrong, don't worry. This mouse cord is... Okay, back again. Well, as you can see here, this blue line basically is the index price of private label versus national brand. So, for example, in Italy, this 81.9% basically saying if a national brand costs 100, a private label brand would cost 81.9. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay, it's always cheaper, so that's the difference. And last year, 2015 versus 2014, this price, so the price of the private label, or the gap actually, it has become smaller because the price of private label comparatively has increased. Okay? So that is what you can read here. So what we see here is that there are differences that are very big in some countries. Example, France and Germany. Why? Let's look at the case of Germany. That is the most obvious one. In Germany, you have two hard discounters, Lidl and Aldi, that are very, very aggressive in pricing. So they are, they have low price brands that have a very big difference versus national brands. Okay? In the case, for example, of Spain, is 73. France, we have mentioned that 70 something. But still, the difference, it's important. As you can see in the countries where, and don't look at Australia because Australia is atypical, it's really starting. You can see Italy and the US, for example, countries where still is not very important private label, the difference is not very big. So if the difference is not very big, again, I'd rather buy a national brand. In the other countries, the situation is different. Again, I'm exaggerating to make the point because there are many other things as the situation of the country. So, I didn't do anything, huh? Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to explain you this until you see it, so you have to trust me, okay? This is supposed to be the price of a basket in Europe, okay? As I mentioned before, again, I'm not going to do a quiz. So like this, we win some time until they fix that. Although I gave you already an answer. The country, so we have created a basket of products, basic products, food, basic products that you buy in the supermarkets, and compare prices, exactly the same products, country by country. Okay, we have done that for private label products and national products that are the same. There are products that really you can buy, Colgate, there are a lot of Coca-Cola, a lot of products you can buy exactly the same bottle in each country. Which country from the ones that we mentioned before, and again I gave you already the answer, give me the 2 or 3 that you think are the most expensive ones, comparing the same things. UK is one, okay. Italy? Greece I mentioned it, so that's already... So UK, Italy, and Greece. No, that's your answer. Actually, it's quite good. 2 out of 3. Although one, I mentioned it, so okay, 2 or 1 out of 3. US, actually. US, Greece, and Italy. These are the 3 most expensive baskets. Okay, comparing them. I'm going to read it to you because you cannot see it, so until they fix it, and again, you will see the presentation afterwards. So basically, for example, the same products in Greece, a typical basket, let's say a basic basket, is 31 euros. In Italy, it's pretty much the same, it's 30 euros, and in the US, it's 31.5, so pretty much the same, okay? But if we go to other countries, let's say Spain, for example, France, or Germany, or even the UK and Netherlands are kind of the middle ground, is around 20, 21, okay? So Spain, Germany, and France are 21, 1, 21, 2, but 21, okay? And the UK, it's 22, and Netherlands 26, okay? So, but again, very big difference. Again, 10 euros difference between the same basket. You can make the calculation, but it's a lot. It's a big difference. I'm going to move, although you cannot see anything, but... Okay, good. Spain. So there was just one slide. I think there's something wrong with the cable. They mentioned that before, that is not working very well, the cable that connects the computers with the beamer. Okay. Now I'm going to give you more detail about what we just spoke about Spain. I don't have to give you also explanations about the situation in Spain because I guess you have read it in the newspapers. Some of you are locals. And we just had elections again last week. So again, I'm not going to make any comments about that. But the situation in Spain is peculiar, to put it in one word, okay? It is obviously, there are signs of recovery, obviously. If you look at the GDP, what is not still recovering really is the confidence index of the population, okay? But there are other things, they are positive. I think people have become quite skeptical in the last years. Already the nature of Spaniards, I think, is skeptical, but in the last years, and especially in the last year, we have like eternal elections because, we did have two times, and let's hope this time, whatever it is, we have a government. That makes people quite unpredictable, okay? So it's kind of hard for them to make decisions. Then there's another thing that I think I mentioned already a couple of years ago, but we were not at that stage at that particular moment, and it's the population. There are several things happening in Spain, and it's funny because when you talk to foreigners, it's funny the stereotypes that people have in mind. They think we still have like 10 children each one. And actually the situation is not really like this. As you can see here, there are two things that have affected a lot the Spanish population and have a lot to do with the FMCG industry. One thing is the immigration. Obviously, when immigration started, some of the immigrants that were doing not very good paid jobs, because immigration in Spain is low paid jobs, it's not high qualified immigration, they were returning to the countries. So it was the first time that we have a negative immigration flow. So that's one thing. And the second thing is fertility, a number of children, by women and mortality. For the first time last year, apart from the fact that we have less births, mortality is higher than births. So every year we are losing people. We are losing people in terms of absolute numbers, in terms of people remaining, and on top, we don't receive immigration, but immigration is going back, transferring back, in most of the cases, to their countries, okay? And that has, so far, no signs of change, okay? So that has to have an impact in FMCG. At the end of the day, we are less people, so it's going to be quite hard to eat more, okay? But there are other sectors that they are performing since the recession has slowed down, or we see signs of recovery much better. Oreca, I mean hotels, restaurants, cafeterias, so everything that has to do at the end of the day with going out and tourism. And here you have two things. You have the one thing that is people here like to go out. That's the reality. So when you have a new remor, do you invest it about inviting friends at home and cooking, or you go out? You go out. That's what we do, okay? although we started to cook things at home and invite friends, we don't like it. We like to go out. And on top of that, we have more tourism, for obvious reasons, no good reasons in many cases, because of the terrorist incidents, because of many things, because of people prefer to travel less far away. And again, the combination of both things have had an impact already in HoReCa, which is a sector that has suffered much more than FMCG in the last years. FMCG quite stable, again, 1.8%, 2% increase last year. And then there are other things that have started to recover, in some of the cases because people had more income or because they had to change, some of the appliances, in the case of hardware, fridges, things like this, or cars. I didn't put here the car industry, but we saw signs of recovery of the car industry last year because of a combination of people wanting, could change it, and they had to change it because, the car park was quite old. The size of the industry, though, is relatively, compared to other markets, relatively small. The annual turnover in this industry, in these channels, is below 50,000 millions. I mentioned this information to you before. And the forecast that we have for this year is approximately the same as last year. Although I have to say that the first semester was not quite as we expected, okay? And we don't know if one of the reasons, this is speculation, but again, when we talk to clients, basically what they say in most of the cases is that, one, they think that the population has not started to buy more because of uncertainty, and obviously the fact that we didn't have a government for a long time didn't help. And then the companies, especially multinational companies, not so much local companies, were postponing decisions for the same reason. Some companies decided not to invest more in promotions, not to hire people, not to invest in media because of uncertainty, because they didn't know what kind of government we would have, if taxes would change, if labor laws would change, so they postponed decisions. And the fact of postponing decisions in a country with very small budgets does not have a positive impact. Again, let's see now if in the second semester, we kind of recover what we didn't grow in the first one. And we achieved the same pretty much growth target than last year. Then there's something that has changed already during the recession and is here to stay and to continue, is how are the sales in the different channels. Half of the sales in Spain, 49%, are done in big supermarkets, and most of the sales are done by one retailer. Then hypermarkets, from 60% of the sales that they have 15 years ago have gone to 17. Imagine, from 60 to 17. That's a big change. That's actually the change between the two of them, half swap, pretty much. Okay. These are really the two changes. The others pretty much remain the same. That's what you can see here. National brands. I did mention that before already. You can see here that private label, what you have here is actually the growth of private label, okay? So private label in 2010 was 35%. The year before was even lower. So it was growing, growing, growing. And then basically in these 2 years has become a steady or decreased a little bit, okay? And that has to do, again, pretty much with the fact that the biggest retailers in Spain have started to promote much more national brands. As the prices of national brands have dropped and have become more close to the prices of private label, maybe people, if the difference is €0.5, I pay it. If the difference is €1, maybe not. But when it starts to shrink, they make, that step, especially if they think that, there's some signs of recovery. And we are not talking about products, again, with a high ticket, okay? And that is what is explained here. There's an increase last year of sales of 2.5% of manufacturers that are not private label, and private label just below 1%.
Eva, may I ask a question?
Yes.
But from this data on volume and value,
yes, that's what it is. Yes.
It seems like actually the price is increasing, manufacturer price is not increasing, right?
Yes, but they do more promotions. In some cases. So one thing doesn't have to come with the other one sometimes. okay? So you can be more active in the store. This is a mix of lots of things, okay? And this is a total number. But actually what we have seen is more promotions in general, okay? And more promotions in particular retailers, okay? This is an average of an average of an average, okay, of lots of things happening. So to answer your question is yes and no. Yes, as a total whole, the prices have increased because some of the manufacturers have increased their prices. Some of the big manufacturers, especially multinational companies, have been forced to pass the raw material price increase, finally, to their prices. And then some others have very strongly promote. So it's a combination. The total number is yes, plus 1%. But in some cases, there are very, very strong price decreases on promotions of key products that I cannot give you the names, but like very important brands and very important retailers, okay? And I'm sure that you can read also in the news. I mean, again, I cannot put names here, but there are two especially retailers that are always in the news, around these things. But, the most important thing is when prices increase, look at this also. The thing is, people don't remember prices. So when they see that, because you see that in general, private label and national brands have increased their price. What people compare is the difference. So when they go to the store, the only thing that they compare is, if I buy, I don't know, let's say a detergent, detergent brand A or a national brand, they look at the difference. Is the difference €1? Is the difference half an euro? That's what they look. They don't remember the price. So what it plays here well very often is just the price difference. And then who grow? And that, I think, gives you also some hints, because I think it's important. Not the big companies, okay? From the top 50 companies that are not private label, okay, that sell the most in Spain, last year 31 started to grow. Some of the growth was very small, okay? But basically the ones that grow the most are the companies that are not that big. And you can see here that on the right, okay? That's what it means. The top 10 biggest companies in Spain, when I mean big, I mean euros, okay? The ones that have a larger P&L, more revenue, grew 0.3. The ones that are following that, so from the 10 to the 50, okay, the 40 remaining, 0.7. And you can see that actually the ones that grow the most are these ones, the smaller ones, okay? I have to make a comment here also, the smaller ones that exist. Because during this process, a lot of these companies have been acquired by another. Maybe they are two companies together now that before, there were two different owners, this kind of thing. So the ones that survive are actually well suited or best suited to win again in the market, okay? I think that's something very peculiar, okay? I think that's something very atypical. And that's why also very often when you read in the news or the press, usually the people very vocal, actually big ones, okay? So when you talk about recovery, if the big ones are talking, they are not recovering. Some of them are still at P&L levels of 2008, 2009, 2010. I'm here not, defending anybody, but the situation is different, okay? Quite different. You want to ask something? No? Okay. Then just a couple of comments about the shopper, and I finish in 5 minutes, okay? Because it's late, even for me, for lunch. 2009, that's really when the recession started, okay? People got very nervous, they were frustrated, they had fear. They changed a lot. That was a year that lots of things changes. But, when you have when you are scared, people were really scared, a lot of things change and then maybe, change back again. Retailers took a long time to react. They really did not react massively until 2 years later, until 2011. At that point, they started to reduce prices, increase promotions, change a little bit, the stores, the packages. It took them a long, long time. We were talking to them, and actually, most of them thought that was something temporary. That it was not worth to change the brand, it was not worth to launch different products because that would erode the brand, and because of many, good reasons, they did quite not believe that that was going to last so long, okay? Then in 2013, that was like one of the worst years. We have a peak in unemployment, almost 30%, which is, as you can imagine, dramatic. On top of that, the government increased taxes. So that means, less people with money and things costing more money, again, a drop. And in 2015, which is last year, again, things changed a little bit, but people are very different, okay? The same person is not the same person from 5 years ago, okay? The way of taking decisions, the way of looking at advertising, the way of looking at promotions, comparing the store is very, very different. So they have, although they might have a job and they didn't have it 2 years ago, although they might have a little bit more income because, again, taxes or whatever reason, they are not going back to what they did before. So even if I have €1 more, I'm not spending this €1 the same way, okay? They have changed their habits in terms of comparing prices, gathering information, and that's not going to change. That's definitely not going to change. That's what we say here, basically. There's a very complex process of checking prices, of checking things. For example, internet sales in Spain are not high, and actually, they're not even 2% in Spain. So nothing has happened in the last 10 years. They are very, very, very low. But you can see a lot of activity in the sites. Why? Because people are looking for information. They're comparing prices. They're comparing prices to control their expenses, but they finally go to the store and buy the product. So they use, for example, there are several websites of price comparisons. They are using them, but not executing the purchase. And they are going back again to smaller stores or closer stores. When I mean smallest, I mean supermarkets, okay? Can maybe high supermarkets, but they are not going back to big purchases in hypermarkets, going once per month and buying big things. No, people get acquaintance with the fact that they go to stores once, twice per week. And although maybe a couple of years ago you had asked and they would say that's really boring, I don't like to do that, now they're used to that. They have changed the way of doing things. These I mentioned to you before. We do a study every 2 years, and these are the results from last year's. And here what you can see is that still 41% of the Spanish shoppers tell us that they want brands. So if they can, they will buy always a brand instead of private label. 22%, that is funny enough, the unemployment rate. I mean, it's a coincidence, but it's people that tell you they always have to buy the cheapest thing, okay? Because they don't have money. They really don't have the possibility. So these people are there. And the group that is kind of growing is this rational group, this 37%. Here you have people in different economical situations. You have people that could afford maybe a bit more, people that cannot really. But these people tells you that they're going to decide in the store. And they're going to decide in relationship to the budget that particular week or to the budget that particular month, and comparing. So they're going to compare. And they're going to make an election in front of the store, okay? They are not very loyal to products, okay? And why do we say that? Because although people might say to you that they love brands, they are not saying that they love just one brand, okay? It's the concept of loving brands. Yes, in some products, and again, I'm not going to mention any concrete, but in some products, yes, it's always the same one. But in others, they would say that they love brands and they will buy among 2 or 3 that are brands, powerful brands, but not the one or the other. Here, there's a question that we do because you have to ask people several times in different manners, because if not, it's very difficult to interpret what they think. Sometimes they don't even know how to do it, no? But we ask people, okay, so if you go to the store and you don't find the brand you wanted, because you told me, you want that, what do? 46% of the cases, they change to another one, so they don't love it that much, 25% they postpone it, so maybe, when they go to the store the next time, yes, they will try to check it, 14%, these are loyal people. I don't find it and I really want it. I go to the store and check it. And 15% forget it. Okay, so we love in a relative way. Neither to the stores. People are absolutely not loyal to a store. What I mean is that in most of the cases when we interview people, and we did something like 15,000 interviews in the stores to people who put things in the stores and had a regular basket. Where, is that your regular store? No, because I go to many stores. In 70%, most 70% of cases, they go to several stores. It's not that they just go to that store. In that particular week, they go to 2 or 3 stores. And as I mentioned before, many, many decisions are taken in the stores, okay? 80% versus 20%. 80% are home decision and 59% are store decision, so almost 60%, and 31% are taken at home. And this is a combination of, I put in my shopping list that I wanted to buy water, and I always put that I wanted, just to put an example we have in the table, this Vila Draw bottle of water, okay? Because one thing is that I put water, and I go to the store and I bought it, but which water, okay? The what did you find? So in many cases, again, they still decide in the store. And it has to do with this fact that I say to you, you know, they love brands, but okay, if there are 2 or 3 brands that I like, I will buy the one that maybe has the best price, or promotion or whatever. What we could see, and this has changed a little bit the last year, is that although people go with a lot of frequency, they spend a little bit more in stores, okay? So they go very often, as you can see here. Most of the people go more, so 70% of the people, 69%, they go not one or more than one time actually per week to the store to buy products, and very little go in a very planned, way. But the size ticket is 43, which is already relatively big. So that doesn't mean that I go and buy just 2 or 3 things. That means that I maybe do it 2 times, really, everything that I need at home that particular week, okay? So the ticket is growing a little bit more. Before, people were going even more, but maybe spending 30-something, so this has changed a little bit. Time in the section also, that doesn't give you so much information. And one of the last things, I'm finishing now already, is that, 2 more slides. The border for private label and national brands is not very clear, okay? Because people expect a lot. People expectations have increased and increased and increased. And the requirements that they have are the same from one to the other brands. It's not that they just buy private label because it's cheap. No. They want that private label has a good assortment, that is good, that the security, the flavors, the variety, they want everything. So actually they're treating them in the same way. Okay, so they're expecting exactly the same things. That has changed. Before, we were buying private label because it was cheap. That's absolutely not the case. Everybody buys in different places, and some of the people buys in different channels also, okay? And then competition in retail has actually increased a lot. So lots of different things had happened in the last years. This is the case of Spain, but in the other countries, you can find similar things. So there are new formats of stores. Stores that are not really a cash and carry, not really a supermarket. It's kind of something in between. I put here 2 examples, Supeco or Cash Libre or Hiperver. So it's very, very large stores. Then there are new operators that they didn't operate in Spain until just recently. Costco has opened stores and is opening more. Or Deals, this operated from the UK, it's also new and has communicated in a very big expansion plan actually in Spain. Dia, for example, has joined Tmall, that is from Alibaba, the online part of Alibaba, basically selling online Spanish products to Asian markets. Hard discounts basically have invested in fresh products and nicer stores. Today, a hard discount has nothing to do with 5 or 6 years ago. There are new partnerships. New associations like Alcampo and Simply or Dia and Eroski have nothing to do with these groups. They're actually competitors. And funny enough, they are creating purchasing groups to buy in a more competitive way. Okay. Soy Super, I don't know if you know this. This is actually, Soy Super is an online service. You can compare prices, you can purchase products, but they have put something on top, for example, that is, they don't give you recipes for food. And if you choose a recipe, they suggest you already where to buy, the ingredients. So they are becoming smarter, funnier. There are new shopper experiences online. Some of the operators have finally invested a little bit on online stores in Spain, because if you check online stores in Spain are very old-looking, very, very old-looking. Even Mercadona has communicated this year that finally they will, although it's probably not a priority, but that they will reshape or remodel their online store. Condis, for example, has a nice one. They have a virtual store. You can buy and physically go through the store, but still they are selling very little. So they are starting to do things, but selling less than 2%. See, very, very little. People go there to check prices. And does somebody know this Good After? No? Good After, for example, is another initiative that you can buy online products that are almost expiring, okay? And many other things. But retailers are starting to do, different things, okay? These, again, are just some examples. And brands are also starting, to do some things, although they have been focused basically on other, in pricing promotions in the last year. And here I just put you 2 examples again that are things happening that are quite, funny that you might know from the industry. I don't know if you know, for example, the smart fridges. Have you seen them? It's a funny thing. This one is from LG, but there are different ones. So basically, they know what you store in the fridge, and basically, even the brand. Obviously, you have to talk a little bit to your fridge so they understand, what you have. But once you have had this conversation, either in your phone or in a display, the fridge tells you what you are finishing and you need to buy. So actually, it's a nice thing because I actually don't like shopping very much. That's a clever thing. Sends you the list. Maybe you could link it to the website. You don't even have to think about it. That would be a very intelligent way of saving time. But okay, that thing this doesn't exist yet. And then, especially media, happening lots of things with brands. Do you know this ad? Addictive? Somebody has tried? I haven't tried, I have to say, but I'm sure that maybe my oldest daughter has tried. Because this is an app that you can actually download, and that basically brands are using people that like brands and basically post a picture. So this is a girl that likes to eat Nutella. Okay, so eats Nutella, puts the picture with the Nutella on eating Nutella, can add the logo, and obviously that becomes, viral. And without even paying to these people, you have, people, promoting your brands. I think, looking at the audience, we are a little bit too old for this. But, people that are in the 20s or teens, believe me, they love it, okay? So new things of promoting media. And it was really what I wanted to present you. I was talking too much, I just realized. So if you have some questions before you want to run and eat, so you hungry or have any questions? Anyways, I'm going to leave you the presentation and you can contact me afterwards. But
Eva, thank you for your presentation. I think that is very interesting. Okay. I have a question related to the leader in Spain, Mercadona. As you know, recently Mercadona announced that in 2019 they are going to open 4 stores in Portugal. My question is, do you think that the reason behind this decision is this kind of saturation of private label, or do you think that this is part of an internationalization strategy from Mercadona?
Well, that's a question that I have my opinion, but I cannot really share with you. Because they are clients of us, you see, and actually are taping me, so that's actually too dangerous. Look at the data published, okay, because that's something that I can tell you. Mercadona is growing every year. And Mercadona has announced this year, again, that they are increasing the number of stores in Spain. So I don't know if they are thinking about internationalization, because they have talked about Italy in the past, and now it's going to become Portugal, not Italy. But they still can grow in Spain. And actually, if you look at their plans, they reflect the constant growth every year, opening stores. And this year, they have a plan on opening more stores. So again, looking at what they publish, looking at what they say, it looks like they are still not saturated in Spain. And again, this is one thing is what I think, but they say that, and the numbers reflect that last year was an excellent year for them. They were one of the ones that grew the most.
This is a strategy. This is not a question of saturation of local.
Maybe it's a strategy, maybe they have a lot of money, I don't know. But they still have a plan to grow in Spain. And again, last year they opened stores and grew. It's not that Yes, we have done some, but they are always focused on concrete brands. So usually when a client requests that, this is, I mean, what they presented here was like the general study. And actually then we did Zooms, in different brands because they basically contracted this study. So I cannot give you this information because usually, they use this information obviously to create the marketing campaigns, the things. So yes, but I cannot really give you any information. I'm not going to say anything that I cannot say, so don't worry. I'm hungry, but still full conscious. So no more questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.